I'm so glad you're here with us today. We're diving deep into A Course in Miracles, and if you're just joining our community, you might be wondering what this course is all about. I'd love to invite you to check out the very first video on this channel, where I break down exactly what A Course in Miracles is, how it came to exist, and why it's been transforming lives for over 5 decades. It'll give you the perfect foundation for everything we explore together here. Now, let me ask you something personal. When you think about healing, what comes to mind? Maybe you think about recovering from an illness, getting over an injury, finding relief from pain. Perhaps you think about doctors, medicine, treatments, all the ways we try to fix what's broken in the body. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because that's what the world has taught you healing is. It's about making the body better, stronger, healthier, more comfortable. But what if I told you that's not really healing at all? What if everything you've been taught about sickness and health is built on a fundamental misunderstanding? What if the body was never really sick in the first place, and true healing has nothing to do with fixing your physical form? I know that sounds radical, maybe even offensive, especially if you're dealing with pain or illness right now, but stay with me. Because what we're exploring today might be the most liberating teaching you've ever encountered. Today we're looking at Chapter 7, Section 4 of A Course in Miracles, Healing as the Recognition of Truth. And this teaching doesn't just challenge your ideas about healing, it completely transforms them. The Course tells us something stunning. Healing is not about changing conditions. It's not about making the sick body well. It's about recognizing what has always been true, even when you couldn't see it. Healing is the shift from believing in illusions to accepting reality. It's waking up from the dream of sickness and remembering that you were never truly sick at all. Not because your pain isn't real to you, but because the truth of what you are, pure spirit, eternal and unchangeable, has never been touched by anything the body seems to experience. This is hard to hear, I know. Especially when your body hurts, especially when someone you love is suffering. The last thing you want to hear is that it's all an illusion. But the Course isn't dismissing your experience. It's not telling you to ignore symptoms or pretend everything is fine. It's pointing you towards something deeper, something that actually has the power to heal, not just temporarily, not just on the surface, but completely and permanently. The world's approach to healing is always about attack. Attack the disease, fight the infection, battle the cancer, kill the virus. And yes, sometimes those treatments seem to work. Sometimes the symptoms go away. But have you noticed? The fear doesn't go away. The vulnerability doesn't go away. The belief that you are a fragile body at the mercy of forces beyond your control, that never goes away. Because the world's healing is always temporary. It's always defending against the next threat, the next illness, the next inevitable breakdown. True healing is something else entirely. It's not defensive. It's not aggressive. It's not even about the body. True healing happens in the mind, the only place where sickness was ever real to begin with. And when the mind heals, when it releases the false beliefs that created the perception of sickness, the body naturally reflects that shift, not because you forced it to change, but because you stopped believing in the illusion that made it seem sick. So if you're tired of fighting, if you're exhausted by the endless cycle of fixing one problem only to have another appear, if you've ever felt that something deeper needs to shift, but you didn't know what or how, this teaching is for you. Because today we're going beyond the body, beyond symptoms, beyond the battlefield of sickness and health. We're going to explore what healing really means and how recognizing truth is the only remedy that actually works. Let's begin. Let's start with something the ego desperately doesn't want you to understand. Sickness is not real. Now, before you close this video or think I've lost my mind, hear me out. I'm not saying your pain isn't real to you. I'm not saying you should ignore symptoms or avoid medical care. What I'm saying is far more profound. Sickness is not a condition of reality. It's a projection of the mind that believes in separation. Think about it. When did sickness enter the picture? Not in heaven, not in the eternal reality where you exist as spirit, one with God, completely whole and invulnerable. Sickness entered the picture the moment the ego invented the body, because the ego needed proof, tangible, undeniable proof, that separation is real, that you are not spirit, that you are a vulnerable, fragile body, subject to attack, decay, and death. The body is the ego's masterpiece. It's the ego's ultimate argument that you are limited, that you are mortal, that you are separate from God and from each other. And sickness? Sickness is the exclamation point on that argument. It screams, look, you are weak. You are defensible. You can be hurt. You can suffer. You can die. And every time you accept that message, every time you believe that sickness is proof of your vulnerability, you reinforce the ego's lie. Here's what the Course wants you to see. All sickness is mental sickness. Not because you imagined it, not because you're making it up, but because sickness originates in the mind's decision to believe in separation, guilt, and fear. The body doesn't decide to get sick. The body doesn't have a will of its own. The body simply reflects the thoughts you hold in your mind. And when your mind is filled with fear, guilt, self-attack, and the belief that you are a separate, isolated body, the body reflects that belief. It manifests it. It makes it seem real. This is why treating symptoms alone never brings lasting healing. You can fight the disease, you can remove the tumor, you can take the medication, and yes, sometimes the symptoms disappear. But if the underlying belief system hasn't changed, if you still believe you are a body, if you still believe you are vulnerable, if you still carry guilt and fear, the sickness will return. Maybe in a different form, maybe in a different area of the body, but it will return because the cause hasn't been healed. The ego loves this system. It loves keeping you focused on the body, on symptoms, on physical solutions, because as long as you're attacking disease, you're reinforcing the belief that attack is real. As long as you're defending yourself against sickness, you're confirming that you are defenseless. As long as you see yourself as a body that can be sick, you've forgotten what you really are, and that's the ego's goal. To keep you so focused on the body's condition that you never look at the mind, never question the beliefs, never challenge the fundamental assumption that you are separate, guilty, and subject to punishment. Because if you did look at the mind, if you did question those beliefs, you'd discover something extraordinary. None of it is true. You are not a body. You cannot be sick. And the entire elaborate system of sickness, vulnerability, and death is nothing more than a dream, a nightmare you've been believing is reality. The first step in healing is recognizing this. Not denying your experience, but understanding its source. Sickness doesn't come from outside you. It doesn't attack you randomly. It comes from the mind's decision to believe in separation. And that means healing is possible. Not through fighting, not through defending, but through changing your mind about what you are. So if sickness is the result of believing in illusions, then what heals? The answer is breathtakingly simple. Truth. Not your truth or my truth. Not some philosophical concept you have to figure out. But truth with a capital T, the eternal, unchangeable reality of what you are. And here's what that truth is. You are spirit. You are not a body. You were created by God, wholly perfect, completely invulnerable, and eternally unified with all that is. Nothing you have ever done, nothing that has ever happened to you, nothing the body has ever experienced has changed this fundamental reality. You are as God created you, period. That's the truth. And recognizing this truth is what heals. Now, I know your mind is probably protesting right now, but I am in a body. I do experience pain. I do get sick. How can you tell me none of that is real? And here's the beautiful paradox. The Course isn't asking you to deny your experience. It's asking you to understand that your experience is not the truth. Your experience is what you're perceiving through the lens of a belief system that tells you you're separate, vulnerable, and guilty. And what you perceive through that lens will always reflect those beliefs back to you. but truth exists beyond perception. Truth exists beyond what the body's eyes can see or what the body's senses can feel. Truth is what remains when all the illusions fall away. And that truth is this: you are whole. You have always been whole. Nothing has ever actually happened to the real you, the eternal spirit that you are. The sickness, the pain, the suffering, all of it is happening in a dream. And healing is simply waking up. This is why the Holy Spirit is essential to healing, because you can't see truth on your own. Not while you're still identified with the ego, still believing the body is who you are. The Holy Spirit sees what you cannot see. He sees your innocence. He sees your wholeness. He sees the truth of you, untouched and unscarred by anything the body seems to have experienced. And his function is to gently guide you from the perception of sickness to the recognition of truth. Healing, then, is not about changing the body. It's about changing your mind about the body. It's about withdrawing your investment in the belief that the body defines you. It's about releasing the idea that you are vulnerable, that you can be attacked, that you are at the mercy of forces outside your control. Because none of that is true. And when you accept truth, really accept it, not just intellectually but in the deep places of your mind, the body naturally reflects that acceptance. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is how the mind and body actually work. The body has no purpose of its own. It has no will, no agenda, no independent existence. It simply does what the mind directs. And when the mind is directed by the ego, by fear, guilt, and the belief in separation, the body manifests sickness. But when the mind is directed by the Holy Spirit, by truth, love, and the recognition of oneness, the body manifests health. Not because you forced it to, not because you manipulated it, but because health is the natural state when the mind is aligned with truth. Here's what this means practically. Healing is not about fighting your symptoms. It's not about denying pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about going deeper. It's about asking, what am I believing about myself that makes this sickness seem real? What guilt am I carrying? What fear am I holding? What separation am I defending? And then, with the Holy Spirit's help, you bring those false beliefs into the light of truth. You let them be undone. You choose to see yourself as God created you, whole, innocent, eternal, and free. And in that recognition, healing happens. Not always instantly, not always in the way you expect, but always truly. Because you've addressed the actual cause of sickness, the mind's belief in illusion. And when the cause is healed, the effects must follow. That's not hope. That's not faith. That's simply how reality works. Truth heals, always, completely, eternally. And that truth is available to you right now. All right, so now you understand that sickness is an illusion and that truth is what heals. But let's get practical. How do you actually live this? How do you apply this profound teaching when your body hurts, when fear grips your mind, when someone you love is suffering? Because understanding a concept intellectually is one thing. Living it in the messy, painful moments of life is something entirely different. The first shift you need to make is this. Stop trying to fix problems and start recognizing wholeness. The world has trained you to be a problem solver. Something's wrong? Identify it, attack it, fix it, make it go away. And that approach might work for mechanical issues, but it completely fails when it comes to healing. Because every time you focus on the problem, every time you see sickness as something real that needs to be fixed, you're reinforcing the illusion that something is actually wrong. True healing requires a different approach. Instead of looking at symptoms and asking, how do I get rid of this? You look beyond the symptoms and ask, what is the truth here? What remains unchanged beneath this appearance of sickness? And the answer is always the same: wholeness, perfection, the eternal reality of spirit. You're not trying to create healing. You're recognizing that healing, wholeness, has always been present, just hidden by your belief in sickness. This is where forgiveness becomes essential. Because often, sickness is tied to unforgiveness, either toward yourself or toward others. You're carrying guilt. You believe you deserve to suffer. You're holding grievances that keep you bound to the past. And all of that translates into the body. The Course teaches that all healing is essentially the release from fear, and fear is always rooted in guilt and attack. So when you forgive, when you release yourself and others from judgment, you remove the mental blocks that were preventing you from experiencing your natural state of wholeness. Here's something profound. You heal yourself by healing your perception of others. When you see your brother as sick, weak, guilty, or separate, you're reinforcing those beliefs in your own mind. And what you reinforce in your mind, you experience in your body. But when you choose to see your brother as God created him, whole, innocent, and one with you, you're choosing truth. And in that choice, you heal. Not just him, not just you, but the relationship itself, which was the real sickness all along. Let me give you something practical you can do right now. When fear arises, whether it's fear about your health, fear about pain, fear about the future, pause. Don't fight the fear. Don't try to make it go away. Just pause and recognize what's happening. You're believing an illusion. You're seeing yourself as vulnerable. And then, gently, invite the Holy Spirit to show you the truth. You can say something simple like, I am willing to see this differently. Show me the truth beneath this fear. And then listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Listen for the quiet certainty that whispers, you are safe, you are whole, nothing real can be threatened. This practice doesn't mean you ignore medical care. It doesn't mean you refuse treatment or pretend symptoms don't exist. It means you stop giving symptoms ultimate reality. You stop believing that your body's condition defines you. You use the medical tools available while simultaneously aligning your mind with truth. You address the physical while healing the mental. Because real healing happens when the mind remembers what it really is. And here's the beautiful thing. As you practice this, as you choose truth over illusion moment by moment, you become an instrument of healing for others. Not because you're special, not because you have magical powers, but because you've remembered wholeness. And when someone encounters you, they feel that. They sense it. Your presence reminds them of what they've forgotten about themselves. You become a demonstration that healing is possible, that truth is real, that the nightmare of sickness and death is just that, a nightmare from which we can all awaken. Living from truth doesn't mean you'll never experience physical discomfort again. It means you'll stop giving that discomfort the power to define you, to limit you, to convince you that you're anything less than the perfect creation of God. It means you'll recognize that nothing real can be threatened. Your true self, the spirit you are, is untouchable, invulnerable, eternally whole. And in recognizing that, you find peace. Not the peace that depends on circumstances, but the peace that passes all understanding, the peace that is healing itself. So here we are. You've just encountered one of the most challenging and liberating teachings in A Course in Miracles. Healing is not what you thought it was. It's not about fixing the body. It's not about fighting disease. It's not about defending yourself against attack. Healing is the simple recognition of truth, the truth that you are spirit, eternally whole, completely invulnerable, and utterly loved. I know this teaching asks a lot of you. It asks you to question everything the world has taught you about sickness and health. It asks you to look beyond what your eyes see and what your body feels. It asks you to trust that there's a reality beyond perception, a truth beyond appearances. And that's not easy, especially when pain feels so real, especially when fear feels so justified. But here's what I want you to take with you. You don't have to do this perfectly. You don't have to wake up tomorrow with complete faith that you're invulnerable spirit. You just have to be willing to question, willing to see differently, willing to invite the Holy Spirit to show you the truth when fear tempts you to believe in sickness. That willingness is enough. That small opening is all the Holy Spirit needs to begin the healing process in your mind. And remember, healing yourself and healing others are the same thing. Every time you choose to see your brother as whole instead of sick, as innocent instead of guilty, as spirit instead of body, you're healing your own mind. You're releasing your own belief in separation. You're practicing the recognition of truth. And in that practice, you discover something extraordinary. You were never sick. You were never broken. You were never separate from the love that created you. You were just dreaming. And now, you're waking up. This journey takes courage. It takes persistence. It takes a willingness to go against everything the ego tells you is real. But you're not alone. The Holy Spirit is with you in every moment, gently guiding you from illusion to truth, from fear to love, from sickness to the recognition of eternal wholeness. Trust that guidance, follow it, and watch as healing unfolds, not because you made it happen, but because you stopped believing in the illusion that prevented you from seeing it was always there. Thank you so much for being here today, for opening your mind to these profound truths, for being willing to see beyond appearances. If this teaching resonated with you, if something shifted in your understanding, I would be so grateful if you would like this video. It helps more people find these life-changing teachings. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. We're exploring A Course in Miracles together every single day, diving deep into the teachings that have the power to transform not just your understanding, but your entire experience of life. Please share this video with someone who needs it, someone who's struggling with illness or fear, someone who's tired of fighting and ready to remember the truth. Your willingness to extend this message is itself an act of healing for you and for them, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. How does this teaching land in your heart? What comes up when you consider that healing is the recognition of truth? What are you willing to see differently? Share your thoughts, your struggles, your insights. This community is a space for honest exploration, and your voice matters here. Until tomorrow, remember this: you are not a body. You are spirit. You are whole. You are loved, and nothing real can be threatened. That's not just a beautiful idea. That's the truth, and recognizing it is what sets you free. See you in the next video.